Dan, among the letters we get pretty frequently are about people who are worried about somebody who's important to them, who's gotten over their heads in either alcohol or drug use. And what started out as recreational use is now beginning to impact the family or the couple in a very negative way. And here I've got a letter from Maryland, one from Washington, one from the Philippines, one from Dubai, one from New Zealand. And it's all the same issues about what do I do with my son who's using marijuana too much? What do I do about my husband? This one, he says, he becomes a different person. He doesn't become violent or angry. Rather, he just makes a fool out of himself. Am I making a big deal or is it a big deal? And I see people struggling with, am I too sensitive about this, or is there in fact a problem? And especially with alcohol and drug use, recreational drug use becoming more and more common, I think people are now thrown into that dilemma of, am I being a prude? Am I being too judgmental, or is it in fact a problem? So what would you suggest to people like this?
Well, I think that's a good way to frame it, about, the fact that it's becoming more and more of a dilemma, and then people are questioning themselves. And I think that's right at the core of this, which has to do with boundaries. What are the boundaries and limits and tolerance? And the thing that I've noticed about working with people who have a loved one that is immersed in substance abuse of some kind is that the person who is doing the drug or the alcohol abuse typically is in some form of denial about how bad it is.
That's right.
That kind of thing. But there's a competing denial on the side of the person who loves that person, because they may be denying the reality of this situation and the fact that they have to care for themselves a bit more. And that comes all the way back around to things like Al-Anon and Nar-Anon, that self-care becomes the way to move through it. Sometimes there isn't much that you can do to help the person. They have concepts like hitting bottom, which basically means that person isn't going to change until something not okay happens. And everybody has a different bottom, so somebody might get pulled over by a cop when they're drunk, and that might do it. They might get a DWI. They might get 3 DWIs. Everybody's got a different turning point.
Or it could be an ultimatum by the partner or the parent, or saying, here's the thing. You may not think it's a problem. For me, it's a big problem. I can't live with this. So we need to talk about where you're going to go, or what you're going to do if I just can't tolerate this anymore.
And that comes back to the self-care thing. Like you have to, when you're on an airplane, the first thing they tell you to do is put your mask on first.
Before you take care of your child,
Absolutely. Before you can really do much for the other person, you got to make sure you're in a good place. That's why Al-Anon has been so well respected and used, because that becomes a vehicle for support for your own sense of boundaries and limits. The two big concepts that I've come away with that I think have really been helpful to people have to do with detaching with love, which is a 12-step concept. And, let me talk about detaching with love. First of all, I think that concept is a hard one for people to grasp.
Very hard.
Right? Because it means you love the person, but also have to respect the fact that you're not going to be the one who can really change them. And so you have to unhook or detach from the outcome of their treatment. And that means you have to love them and unhook at the same time. I think the truth is, it probably would be better said detaching with compassion, to know that that person has a struggle in front of them, that it's a formidable struggle, and that you can only set boundaries and limits for yourself with them. Because if you overextend, that's going to generate resentment in you, and probably resentment in them for trying to do it. The second thing is that for most people, it's being able to acknowledge that that person has the right to have the dignity of their own problems, that you can only, once again, establish what it is that's okay for you and what's not okay, and to find the courage to communicate that. And then they have to have the dignity of struggling through what they struggle through.
I think the hardest part for a lot of people is exactly what you said, finding the courage to say, you know, as much as I love you, as much as I want to be married to you, as much history as we have, as much as we have built a life, you've gone too far.
Yes.
I can't do this. And it's not that I don't want to be married to you. It's not that I don't love you. It's not that I don't want to continue our life together, but I can't have this other element in our relationship. And that takes enormous courage.
And that's the part where we started about the denial, is that I think a lot of people put that off, put that kind of thinking off, which is just the same kind of...
Terrified.
Yeah, right. The same kind of defense mechanism that somebody who is knowing that they have a substance abuse problem or an alcohol problem, and they're putting that off. So you have to confront your own denial system and find a way to speak up and cope with it.
It's hard work.
Very
hard
hard
work.
Very hard.